Here in the studio with me is Carol Brandt, the director and writer of Dear Coward on the Moon. How are you doing, Carol?
I am doing very well. Thank you, sir.
Just a couple quick questions just to warm up, and
Alrighty.
very fast-paced questions. First of all, your favorite movie of all time, since you are a filmmaker.
Oh, man. I do have one to go to, and that is Joe versus the Volcano by John Patrick Shanley. He is mostly known for Doubt. He wrote and directed Doubt, the play and the movie with Meryl Streep and Amy Adams. So his earlier films are very different from that. But basically, it's a film that was made in 1990, and it's Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan. And it's actually the only Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan movie that I like. But it's pretty much every genre. It's like an adventure, it's a drama, it's a comedy. And it's this man who finds out that he has 6 months left to live. And he gets hired by this guy to become a human sacrifice for these islanders in the South Pacific. And he has to jump into a volcano because he's going to die anyway. And to repay him, he gets all these credit cards and all this money he can spend and have this great trip out into this island in the middle of nowhere. I don't know. It's great and hilarious. And every time I watch it, it strikes a chord in a new way because it's also very philosophical and poetic, but really goofy at the same time. So
I enjoyed those movies, so I should definitely check this one out. What's the first movie you ever experienced? You're like, this is amazing.
This is a movie?
I love film.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, actually, I did see Joe versus the Volcano when I was 12, and I fell in love with it then. So it's been consistently my favorite film since I was 12 years old.
That's awesome. And would you say that's kind of when you were like, film, this is it?
Yeah.
This is amazing.
Yeah.
This is a cool thing.
For a long time, I wanted to be an animator and a cartoonist. And I quickly lost the patience after a big project I was working on in high school completely bit the dust and my computer deleted everything.
Oh.
And it was a year of my life just gone.
Oh.
And I was 15, and I had spent the entire year in my room filming these stop motion characters and building all these sets. And it was just gone forever.
Oh, I feel so much pain for just hearing that.
So back up your files, everyone, and don't edit on a gateway computer.
So we already covered how long you've been interested in making movies. Or you've been interested since you were 12, but making movies, when did that really
when I wanted to this is a thing I'm going to do?
Yeah.
Well, so I dabbled a lot in the arts growing up. I wanted to be an animator, but then I wanted to be a writer, but then I wanted to be a musician, which didn't pan out. But the writer thing, I started writing a novel when I was 16, and this novel, I finished it, but then after I finished it, I was I kind of want to make movies, so why am I writing a book? So I adapted this novel, which was terrible, to a screenplay, which was also terrible, and then I spent 5 years making that terrible screenplay into a semi-good screenplay, and then I shot it my sophomore year of school. So about when I was 18 is when I started turning that novel into a screenplay, and I was okay, I think this is something I actually want to do. Who needs to make short films? I'm going to make a feature right away and try that out. So that was an adventure and a half. But I'm glad I did it. I mean, it was definitely a learning experience and a lot of trial and error. I feel like most of what I learned on how to make a movie, I learned through making a movie and literally Googling how to write a shot list and how to cast actors. nofilmschool.com actually taught me more than anything else, which is nuts. But yeah, that was probably when I first started, was 18. I was this is a thing I'm gonna do.
Yeah. And so you had your own producer in this film, right?
Yes.
So you didn't even need to have to worry about
For Dear
casting
Coward?
and actors and doing all that stuff, because
I also produce.
You did
as well.
produce?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it was me and then 2 producers.
Okay.
So since I'm a control freak, I like to do things myself a lot. But through the years, I've learned that it is good to have help, because then you don't kill yourself.
Yes.
So, for Dear Coward, I had my friend Marty, who I've been collaborating with since junior year of college, and we work on each other's projects a lot. And he was instrumental in having me casting, and would always check in every week and be like, did you do this? Did you do this? And it was really, really nice. So.
And speaking of control freak, what was it like having a cinematographer and working with them?
I love it. I mean, so we had 2 cinematographers. We had Quinn Hester, who's very well known around town, and he shot all the moon scenes. And then we had Logan Mitchell, who shot all the real life scenes. And Logan can just like read my mind, and we have a very like kind of a shorthand where I'll show him the storyboards, because I storyboard all my films meticulously. And I'll just show him these and be like, what are you thinking? And then he'll either be like, yeah, that's cool, or how about we do it this way? Also, Quinn Hester was amazing. I mean, there's a reason why he's so popular to work with in this town, is because he's just so good at what he does. And it's just like one of the nicest people I've met in this city, and everyone loves working with him, which is hard to do in a small city where everybody like knows what everybody else is doing and people still want to work with each other. It's great to be like that neutral filmmaking party where people are like, oh yeah, he's great. Nobody is like, you know. But I'm sorry, can I?
That's okay. You're all good.
I will do it no more. My apologies.
Let's talk about those moonshots since we're in the cinematography.
Yeah.
I guess I just want to ask how you went about shooting them, but yeah, there's just so much I want to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, so we were originally going to shoot the moonshots on frozen Lake Michigan, because, you know, those certain winters when all the waves crash up and you get these really crazy looking like snow hills on the coast of Lake Michigan. Have you ever seen those where it's the snow just builds up and builds up and the ice builds up? So we were going to shoot on those and wait for winter. However, when winter rolled around, that didn't happen. We didn't get any snow that winter. So we were like, oh, well, shoot, what do we do? So I had been to the Badlands as a kid, and I was just looking at pictures of, you know, like the Death Valley in Las Vegas, or even going to the Grand Canyon potentially. But I looked at the Badlands, and it was so weird and lunar and alien looking that I just decided, well, it's also the closest. So we just drove, me and Marty, my producer, drove 12 hours in a weekend to just go look at the Badlands and like see, okay, where could we shoot this scene? Where could we shoot this scene? Kind of walk through all the scenes that we wanted to shoot. And then the next weekend drove out there with our cast and crew and shot the scenes in 3 days. So we were able to plan it out pretty much down to the second, like how long we were going to spend on each scene. And we actually ended up shooting like ahead of schedule. So we had we got to go to the, you know, Mount Rushmore and do some sightseeing. But that was, I had always planned to shoot it during the day. We talked about shooting it at night to get, you know, this real sky, the real night sky. But if you think about how the sun hits the moon, it's, you know, direct sunlight. So we wanted to get that brightness. And so we're just like, we can just black out the sky in post. So that's what we did. And it looks all right. I think it looks pretty moon-like.
No, it works. It really does. And it really felt blacked out. Yeah. Because that's what space is. And so it worked, and you could see the stars. And I enjoyed it.
The other scene we shot with my 2 adult lead actors, we actually shot in a quarry near Viroqua, where we were shooting everything else. So that was cool, because we just got to go into this big hole in the ground, and it was close enough for us to, you know, it was rocks. So they were just eating dinner surrounded by these rocks.
So that wasn't filmed at the Badlands?
No, that was in this huge rock quarry that
Wisconsin.
the owner let us film in. He was super nice about it too.
Okay.
And that was really fun, because we actually did light that. We had to set up these huge lights to make it look similar to what we had shot in the Badlands. It still looks kind of different, but you get the idea. And it was one of the funnest shoots ever, because we got to have a food fight in a rock quarry, and that was a blast. Also, our generator died while we were shooting that scene, so we had to use these battery-powered LED lights, which were just bright enough to have it look similar. But that was an adventure, because our generator started shooting fire. And we were like, that's not good.
In a hole in the ground where you're all trapped. So
everyone got out safe.
That's really cool, because it blended in very nicely, where I would have believed that you shot that also on the Badlands.
Yes.
It all looked the same. It looked like it was on the moon. How experienced were those actors?
They were like professional working actors, which was a first for me, because I had always just casted friends. I grew up in like a community theater community. So most of my friends were actors and good actors. So for my first film, it was all people I knew that acted already. But I had never had like professionals who I had to fly in and put up and pay their, SAG minimum rate. So that was, this was a non-union shoot because they weren't union at the time. So that was nice. But I still paid them like whatever the SAG minimum was because I wanted to pay them, a good amount to, for their time.
That's cool.
Talent.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Every single actor you work with is going to be so different because as a director, you're literally telling them what to feel.
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to be different for everybody. You're going to have to tell someone different things to feel different things.
For anyone who hasn't seen Dear Coward on the Moon, you had a showing earlier this week on Wednesday. Thursday.
Yesterday.
And you have one last one.
We do have one last showing.
Times Cinema, 8:15.
8:15 p.m.
Sunday.
On Sunday.
You didn't get to see it at the Oriental, which was such a cool experience.
You guys missed out.
Wow. I enjoyed this film very much. It was very cool. I wish I could talk more. I could be talking all day about this, but we got to stop. So thank you, Carol, for coming on. It was a pleasure.
I'm glad my film did its job and made you feel something.
It really did.